Investigating Perceived Attractiveness Through Images and Descriptions, conducted by Dakita Moon and Allison Nolan. Our hypothesis is that the perceived attractiveness of individuals will alter when manipulating their images based on the golden ratio. This is based off the paper, A New Hypothesis on Facial Beauty Perception. With this study, the results showed that most of the putative results, like using the golden ratio and other magic numbers, are somewhat subjective and arbitrary. We wanted to look more into this as well as look into a more diverse pool of participants, whereas this study was completed by majority, if not all, Chinese students. This second study, Facial Symmetry and the Perception of Beauty, looked to find whether or not attractiveness increased with symmetry and natural variations in symmetry. They used black and white images to measure attractiveness, mate appeal, and symmetry, but we wanted to see the outcome when the golden ratio is involved with color images. The study that we conducted included 18 participants. Our study took approximately 10 to 15 minutes for each study. We used 10 models or faces for our study and manipulated them 3 times. There were 2 parts of our study, in which I will explain more in detail in the next 2 slides. One model or face was discarded due to the inconsistency of conditions presented to the participant. We asked participants to choose which one they would find more attractive. Each image was displayed in 4 separate ways. One was the original, one was a golden ratio manipulating the placement of the nose, one manipulated the placement of the lips, and the final manipulated both the nose and the lips. Images were paired in every combination. The order the images were presented was randomized for each participant. In this example, the left image had a manipulated nose and the right image was the original. After all possible pairs of images were displayed to the participant, a final slide of each subject was shown. We used the slide of each subject as our sanity check. In this slide, the top left is the original image. The top right is a manipulated nose. The bottom left is a golden ratio based on the lips, and the bottom right is the nose and lips. We conducted a post-survey with all of our participants. One of the first questions was whether the males or females were more attractive. It was a perfect split of which gender was more attractive. We compared this to whether the respondent was male or female and found no correlation. Almost all of the participants noticed that the nose had been modified, and a few people noticed the mouth as well. The most common trend and response was the difficulty in finding differences between the images. The rows are the modifications made to specific parts of the face using the golden ratio. The columns represent different faces, where A is one individual's face, and so forth. We created these graphs to show the average of the times the modifications specific to each face were picked. We discovered that the number of times the nose and lips modifications were very similar with several faces. We also found that the face with modified nose and lips, or the face that was manipulated the most by the golden ratio, was not chosen over the original face of that person. This is the opposite of the results that we found in our cited paper. We will discuss the possible meaning behind this difference in the next slide. For the sanity check, the averages obtained from this part of the study is in agreement with the initial study treatment. The participants in the paper were all Chinese students. We had a much more diverse population. The subject photos were not able to be obtained from the authors, so that the people they chose may have been more unattractive to start out with overall. Most of our subjects required very little modifications to achieve the golden ratios. Over 75% of our participants commented that they had a lot of trouble determining the differences between multiple photos. Had we used the same photos as the paper, perhaps the modifications would have had improved the attractiveness of the individual. Finally, some of the participants commented in our post-survey that they chose one image over another because of weird lines in the face. This is due to the novice Photoshop skills of the researchers.